what I'd like to do is just ask you some questions about
Mhm.
various things. You've been in your own lockdown through the past year. Been a very difficult time in the Netherlands as well. What kind of advice do you have to the students? Because we're facing this situation now. How do you think that they should proceed in trying to effectively pursue photography, street photography under these conditions?
Hmm.
What tips do you have? Because you've been
Oh,
out
well,
there every day shooting.
what is your situation like? Can you leave the house?
We can, but it's not, it's discouraged and like markets are limited.
Yeah.
There's no in restaurant eating. People are not supposed to gather. You can't have like more than a few people together outside.
Mm.
Some people do it anyway, but
Mm.
theoretically, you're not supposed to do it.
But do you like? Are you able to walk around? Can you take walks by your own?
You
On
can,
your own?
yeah, you
Okay.
can. And that's what I've been doing. I've been walking around sort of like the riverside and places that are kind of empty.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm aware that people have different ways of dealing with the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is a great thing that you can go out on your own, because I like when you are in the house, it's quite difficult. Then I would just advise to see if you can photograph out of the window, or maybe do some research about photography or art you like. And maybe if you have done some work, you could see if you can sequence it. So take the time to maybe take a distance to look at your work from a distance, because you have that time. And but when you are able to go out, I would just take walks with the camera. And like in the Netherlands, I've noticed that during our lockdown, a lot of things that couldn't happen inside were moving outdoors. So there
Really?
was a lot of yeah. So
Like what?
um, well, for example, celebration of birthdays, you couldn't really have a celebration. So, for example, there was a band, and they were playing like at birthday parties, and now they made themselves into like a street band. So they were like the 1.5 meter Cacico band, and Cacico is a traditional Suriname music. So they really made like Corona as their business model, because they were like, yeah, we just come by in your street, and then we like all the band members were on like 1.5 meter apart from each other, and they were just
Wow.
making a lot of like great music very loudly, and then people would just dance on the street, also maintaining the distance. So you had like a lot of things happening in front of windows. Also during Easter, I saw this like lady, or this girl in an Easter bunny suit or costume, because she was surprising her grandmother. So
Sounds like a great
and
arrangement there.
and some sports that you could see everyone was like working out outside. Um, so maybe there are less things to photograph, but the things that were there were more absurd even.
That's
So
a good way to look at it. I
yeah,
like that. Sort of things are even weirder now. So I mean, this is kind of a time where things that will happen that you wouldn't normally see.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's happening now, and because it's happening now, it maybe looks less special because we are used to it. But I think this
After
time
this is
will be
over, we're gonna
over.
look back at it and
So
like,
I think it's good to photograph everything you're surprised about, or what wasn't happening before, and just keep it, because it could also be like historical evidence. And maybe I think a lot of people don't see it as that now, but it can become that later. So I would just photograph. I would just go out with the camera and see what surprises you. Try to keep it fun for yourself. Also for me, I was taking photos for the newspaper, and sometimes like the times were very difficult with a lot of casualties a day, and everything was very serious. And then I saw this like fun absurd scenes, and actually the newspaper was quite happy about it, because they said like we have already so much like serious stuff, and we need something with a bit of humor.
something light. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you. we have a lot of like temple ceremonies and things like that. And a lot of the students will go to the temple ceremonies and they will document the traditional sort of folklore activities. So what advice would you have for like creating an effective series of photography on the theme of like a folklore activity, but still making it interesting and more than simply documenting the activity?
Yeah. Like, is there a way, for example, to dig deeper, to maybe follow one certain type of celebration and maybe even like behind the scenes or the preparation? So it's not just a like tourist shot, but then you dig deeper into like the celebration itself and how people prepare for it, what it means to people to take more of a like documentary look or angle. Yeah. Well, I don't know. You could maybe give them like a sub theme. Like, for example, go there, but don't photograph the celebration, just photograph the visitors, or, you know, to have something they can combine it with, or, I don't know, pick a color you will focus on, or just photograph just the people with a yellow backpack, or something
Oh
that
God,
will make
everyone there has the yellow backpack.
yeah, probably,
It's the uniform.
yeah, or focus on the animals there, or
That's a
yeah,
good idea. That's a
maybe
good
give them like something more to focus on than just going there and photograph people with candles or like the
specific.
flower stuff. So maybe give them some like one more task, or maybe even more tasks, but something that makes it more difficult to photograph it.
Right. So let me ask you, what about a series makes it compelling to you? What personally makes a series for you, like a photographic series? I know it's a broad question.
Yeah, it is. It's fine. I think it's for all works of art or like creative expressions. For me, it is interesting to see when a different kind of reality, or to see the translation of the artists who will make me look in a different way at these photos or at these situations. So when somebody shows me his or her reality, which is different from mine, I found that interesting. And for series, it's a lot about editing. So sometimes you have to take out a very good shot because it's not fitting into the series, or maybe it's distracting. And sometimes even like a weaker shot can make the series more interesting. So it's always good to look at it from a distance and
But
to see.
it's so subjective. You're so close to the work that
Yeah,
you made. How can you understand how other people will see these connections that you see in a series?
it's difficult, but you can before you publish it, you could also show it to some people and see what they think. And then you could maybe they will have similar opinions, or maybe they will have different opinions. But you could sharpen your edits with the help of others, I think.
Usually, I end up with these things with is sort of with your advice or encouragement to the students, and how do you think what they should be doing, how they should be uh, working through the bottlenecks that they encounter.
Yeah, we just follow your fascination and keep it fun. Um, Sometimes it also works to visit a completely different city. I know that Matt Stewart said like photograph home, um, which is great. I could imagine that maybe in the pandemic you have been very close to home, and it can be refreshing to visit another place, maybe like a sleeping town, you know, maybe a very different community or a very different neighborhood, and take a fresh look. Sometimes I think as for me, I sometimes need like a very different environment to be surprised again. And then maybe when you go back, you will also see new elements of your town or of your neighborhood because you have been away for a while.
Okay.
And if you're stuck with ideas, it might be good to just go out and photograph a lot, and then realize what makes your heart beat. And then I think after a while, if you look at your photos when you are at home in the pandemic and you have to do sequencing, you're forced to look at your photos, I think you might see like similar elements of photos that really interest you. So maybe you will find a theme, like when you're looking back at what you made, you know. So I think in the beginning it's quite good to just photograph a lot, see what fascinates you, and then take a step back, take a look at the photos, and try to find a pattern of what really fascinates you. And then when you realize that, then you can go on and like deepen that fascination.